That's like okay. Anywho, darlings, happy Saturday, happy weekend, happy, happy every day. Honestly, I think I'm a little bit like out of it simply because, well, your auntie's like 110 years old. Plus, I had to go move my car out in this heat, and I'm like, ooh, out of control. Out of control. This heat, it was just like I was not prepared. I was not prepared, but I know. I should not complain too much because at least I have a vehicle that runs that I can rely on to bring me from A to Z. And it is not something that a lot of people have. So sorry about the complaining. Anyhow, let's start over. Darlings, how was your fabulous weekend coming around so far? There is so much news all the day long. And obviously I don't cover everything. I just, I pick what is really something that grabs my attention, that I feel is important to me, that I want to kind of just share and share my opinions on. So, anywho, darlings, who can forget? And I hope we never, ever forget 9/11. I remember when I saw it in the news. Obviously, it happened in the East Coast, and I was watching it on West Coast. I saw it in the news, and I was like thinking, "Oh, that's a really new movie, isn't it?" I really thought it was a movie. I'm not trying to make fun of it at all, but when I saw it, and then I wasn't paying attention. It was like early in the morning, but I wasn't paying attention with like the banner in the bottom where it's like breaking news or something. But then you also see that in the movies sometimes where they'll have scenes where it'll say breaking news or what have you. So I thought it was a like a new action movie. But anywho, obviously, unfortunately, we already know that this is not the case. And years on, I still hope that we continue to remember the atrocity of that day, and that we remember sometimes in our prayers to, lift up the families who've lost their lives, loved ones, and so forth on that um, very, very dark day in a modern American history. Anywho, so with that, I came across this article. I guess CNN has covered it, Fox News, who else? The New York Times and all the other publications, right? Major publications have covered this. And apparently, the Defense Secretary has revoked the plea deal with the accused 9/11 plotters. So when I saw it, actually, I think was it a couple of days back? I was like, the 9/11 accused plotters of this atrocious crime were given a plea deal. Like, I just saw the banner and I was like, in my mind, I'm thinking, who is this a-hole that thought of this? Like, literally, who? I need to know. Because, I'm casting my vote this November. So I need to know who this idiot was that thought, remember those people accused of plotting the 9/11 atrocity? Let's go give them a plea deal. Who the hell thought that was a great idea? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. It's just my personal opinion, okay? My personal opinion. I thought when I saw the headline that was such a horrible idea. I still think that. Anyway, on to the article. So the defense secretary revokes the plea deal with accused 9/11 plotters per NPR. And I'm so glad that this startling reversal of a decision was made, 48 hours earlier. Well, 48 hours a little bit later, but the U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin has revoked the plea deals reached with three of the accused plotters of the September 11, 2001 terror attacks, which included the alleged mastermind. And do not throw tomatoes at me. I'm probably going to mispronounce the name. I'm sorry. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. Secretary Austin also removed the head of the U.S. military commissions, who on Wednesday had approved the settlement agreement. So this answers my question. This is the little a-hole that approved the settlement agreements. Like, sir or ma'am, is going on for real. I mean, I know it's hot. I know it's hot everywhere in the world, and we're all affected by the heat. But really, though, really, no, no. So again, on Wednesday, he had removed the head of the U.S. military commissions from the 9/11 case, which has obviously been mired in legal quagmire for 2 decades now, and is widely considered unlikely ever to go to trial. So Austin's surprise announcement made Friday night cancels the plea bargains that would have allowed the three men to avoid a death penalty trial by pleading guilty to conspiracy and murder charges in return for sentences of up to life in prison. Many of the 9/11 family members and elected officials celebrated the deals, which they view was the only practical way to resolve the case. Why is this case dragging on? Hello? Why is this? I can't. I just can't. Honestly. But others, including some members of Congress, condemned the settlements as being soft on terrorists who admitted to killing nearly 3,000 people. If they've already admitted to being a part of this crime and or masterminding the crime, why are we still stuck in this legal quagmire? Hello? Is anybody home? Really? It all made for a head spinning week, obviously, at the U.S. military court in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, where prosecutors, defense attorneys, and various other government officials have been flying back and forth for years to litigate the 9/11 case. The nullification of the plea deals means that, at least for now, the case returns to a state of legal gridlock. President Biden, the White House played no role, quote unquote, in approving the settlements and only learned of them when they were announced by the Pentagon on Wednesday, according to a spokesperson for the National Security Council. The deals were inked by the so called convening authority for the military commissions, Susan Escalier, a retired brigadier general who was appointed to the Defense Department role last summer by Secretary Austin. Sir, you need to do better in hiring or appointing these top level military commissioners. I'm sorry. I know that you are like, as soon as you learned of it, you were like, no, it's not going to happen. That was an error. Okay, you didn't say that was an error, but I'm just saying, hello. In relieving Escalier of her 9/11 duties and reversing her decision to enter into settlements, Austin wrote that, quote, in light of the significance of the decision, responsibility for such a decision should rest with me, unquote. By assuming oversight of the case, Austin stripped Scalier of her 9/11 decision making power, although she remains in charge of other Guantanamo cases. I mean, so previously, prior to getting stripped of the 9/11 decision making power, that's a wide ranging kind of power, isn't it? Where it's like, granted, she had that power, it was bestowed upon her. But for such a case, for such, I want to say a divisive case, right? Because, like, as it was said earlier in the article, that defense lawyers, prosecutors have been flying back and forth for like damn near 2 decades or over 2 decades, trying to litigate this thing. Shouldn't she have maybe taken clear, concise, and um, what is the word I'm looking for? Transparent steps to, at the minimum, speak to her boss, who is, again, the defense secretary. Because, oof, oof. And continuing on with the article, among the 9/11 family members, reaction to the reversal of the plea deals ranged from exasperation to anger to delight. And they are valid in their feelings, valid all across the board. Whatever their feelings are, um, it's across the board valid. And one who had spoken, Elizabeth Miller, who was 6 years old when her father, a Staten Island firefighter, died in the attacks, who supports the settlement agreements. She is quoted as saying, "I'm really just feeling numb." Further, she's quoted, "I got my hopes up that this would finally be over, and I'm disappointed in the US government," unquote, she said. "It just feels like now you want to get involved. Now you want to pay attention. Like, how can we continue as is? These pretrial hearings have been going on for 13 years, and we're no closer to a conviction, a death penalty conviction. Now that when we were now than when we were 13 years ago. So what's the point of continuing?" End quote. Miller also questioned why Austin intervened in the case, since the quote convening authority unquote is statutorily independent, designed to be free of political influence, and typically does not require approval from above. Further, she says, what's the point of having a convening authority if the convening authority doesn't have the authority to make the decision? She further adds, let them do their job. So I feel, I do. And I don't know if I'm valid in my feelings in feeling like, where did we go wrong? Because we shouldn't still be trying to litigate this, this case, this a monumental, horrific case. Why are we still here? Like 2 decades later, we're not any closer to getting um, a trial for, the defense and the prosecutors for this case. I mean, I just can't help but wonder, like, who are the stakeholders in this case? I just feel like there's so many hands in this damn cookie jar. Like, it happened on American soil. The attack was against um American citizens. Am I being too slow? Or is my brain really that slow? In that, yes, everybody is allowed to have their own defense. Everybody's um, entitled, right, per our constitution, to have um, somebody to defend them, to their own lawyers and stuff. And yes, of course. And then there's also such a thing as like overwhelming evidence. And then also, if you have the accused um, having pled guilty to the crime, what is the contention? Why are we still at a roadblock? Maybe it's because my brain is too simple that I don't know, right? But I feel bad for the families. I feel like, yes, of course, they deserve an answer. At the very least, they deserve an answer. And at the very least, they deserve the justice that they deserve. And they're, again, like, their feelings are warranted and being beyond exhausted, beyond exasperated. And some of them, maybe, have lost hope that they would ever see the outcome of this particular case. I mean, look at the lady who spoke. She was 6. She's what now? 2 decades later, 26. She's nuts. There's also, per the NPR. Uh, sorry, I lost my train of thought now. So irritated. So per the per the NPR article, continuing on, other relatives are pleased that the 9/11 defendants may again face the prospect of being put to death. And some family members, including Brett Eagleson, who was 15 when his father died in the World Trade Center collapse and who has campaigned against plea deals, believe a trial could result in important new revelations about the planning of the attack. Eagleson said Wednesday's announcement that settlements had been reached was a complete shock to him and many other 9/11 family members. By agreeing to plea bargains, he said, quote, "You are denying the American public and the 9/11 families their day in court, and you're denying justice. To do a plea deal feels like we've been betrayed," unquote. He adds that we want a trial. We want to put these individuals on a stand. We want the public to see it. And we want the media to see everything that these individuals have to say, unquote. Senator Tom Cotton of Arkansas is one of numerous Republican lawmakers who had expressed disgust at these settlement agreements, blasting them as a, quote, a disgrace, unquote. On the other end of the political spectrum, Senator Richard Durbin of Illinois called the plea deals a, quote, small measure of justice and a finality for the victims and their loved ones, unquote. Settlement talks had begun in March 2022 but appeared dormant after the Biden administration last September rejected some proposed conditions, including a request that the defendants not be sentenced to solitary confinement. The defendants also requested medical care for their lingering injuries from having been watched in secret CIA prisons known as black sites. That TO is largely responsible for bogging down the case, since prosecutors and defense attorneys have been arguing for years over whether evidence obtained through this method is admissible in court. In a recent ruling that did not bode well for 9/11 prosecutors, a judge in a different Guantanamo case, the USS Cole warship bombing, threw out a confession because he said it was a product of said physical harm. We'll just say that. In addition to Mohammed, the two other 9/11 defendants who had signed plea deals are Walid bin Atash and Mustafa al-Hawsawi. One 9/11 defendant, Ammar al-Baluchi, had not agreed to a plea deal in part because he wants any settlement to include post physical harm medical care, according to one of his lawyers, Alka Pradhan. Another lawyer for al-Baluchi, James Connell, said this about Secretary Austin canceling the plea bargains. Quote, "What this tells us is what we knew all along, that this case is really just a string of political intrusions into a made-up judicial system. No legitimate justice system can allow other outside political actors to come in and make the decisions for the people who are actually involved. Before this, he continues, before this plea agreement, not many people paid attention to the military commissions. And most people couldn't have even been told you that there was a military commission going on, unquote, per Connell. He also adds, quote, if it returns to the same things that it's been doing for the past 13 years, then it really just goes back to business as usual and keeps slogging along in legal gridlock for a long time, unquote. Okay, like I said, the horror of that day, I hope we never forget. I hope the atrocities done against, anyone, right? Not just American citizens, against anyone, are never forgotten, and that we keep that in mind so that we don't repeat that. I also hope for justice for the families involved, for the people who lost their lives, and those who are affected. I don't know what else there is to uncover, there is to dredge out. I mean, isn't 13 years sufficient to form a definitive case? Isn't it sufficient to compile factual evidence at 13 years? Of course, it's also costing us, maybe directly or indirectly, taxpayer money. And I don't care about your political affiliation one way or another. Again, I really hope that at the end of this, we figure out what is best for the families, those who've lost their lives, and for our country and our citizens. I'm not a lawyer, obviously. I wouldn't know the nuances of any case, including this one, obviously. But I guess I just want to reiterate that, we have to watch out for ourselves, for our own citizens. And in this case, we need to do the best we can for the families, for those who lost their lives. And um, I really hope that we keep them in mind, when um, when we make decisions that obviously would add to altering again their lives, because this is their life, this is their lives. And even though maybe family members of theirs have lost their lives, it remains true that this has again unfortunately altered their lives. So for us all who are affected indirectly, I hope that we remember them in our prayers. I hope that we remember to try to be kind, to leave grace for others. I know we try to, but just, as I'm not saying like you should try to do it all day long, but I'm just saying, not just once a year. I'm just saying. Anyway, fabulous people, I have gone on and ranted enough. I shall talk to you all fabulous people later. And remember to journey in gratitude. I shall talk to you, darlings, later.